All right, welcome everybody to week 2 of DES 105 Page Layout Tools, aka the InDesign course, right? I am Shannon McNamara, your graphic arts instructor. So I hope that everyone had a successful week 1. I know it was, that first week getting into a new program can feel really frustrating. I understand. So I commend everyone for, taking that leap, both feet in and creating those menu covers. And I just want to let you know, if you haven't gotten your work in yet for week 1, if you're nervous, if it's late, there's still time to get the work in. And I really don't want you to fall behind in this course. So even if you feel that it's, not completely finished, but you're a little bit stuck, my suggestion would be to submit what you have, because I can offer you some suggestions if you're really confused when you submit. You can even ask me to make a video recording for you while I'm grading it, so that way you can kind of see it from the point of view of your specific submission. I don't mind doing that at all. Just ask. And again, I know how kind of a little nerve-wracking it can be getting into and learning a new program for the first time in the first week of learning the program. I remember when I would go in and learn new programs, and I'm still always learning things. It's like you're scared to kind of look around and press stuff. You're like, oh, I don't want to mess this up. So I completely get it. And today we're going to do a lot of demos again. I'm going to show you completely how to put together the menu portion, so that way you can just follow along with your menu, whichever one it happens to be, whatever your verbiage is, and we'll really just take it from there. I'll kind of show you 2 different ways. So if you have a restaurant that is the more high-end restaurant, or if you have a restaurant that's more of a laid-back vibe, we can look at 2 different ways to set those up as well. So again, don't be nervous about the course. I feel as though I was pretty lenient in the grading. If things were missing, that's really where I took off the points, but you can resubmit. So, take the feedback and you can resubmit. Now, my phone hours are roughly Monday through Wednesday, 7 a.m. Mountain Time to 2 p.m. Mountain Time, but you can email me anytime. Just note that I am located in Eastern Standard Time Zone. You can also text me. Just be aware of the time zone change. So if you kind of are trying to get in touch with me and it's later at night, you might not hear back from me until the next morning. All right, so our agenda for today, I have a couple of announcements. We're going to discuss our discussion question for week 2. We're going to discuss the CRAP design principles, and then we'll take a quick look at the assessment and the assignment for week 2. And then if you are looking for some extra feedback for which menu cover to pick going into week 2, if you would like to post both of your menu covers in the discussion this week, that can be your second post. If you would like to ask your fellow students which one you should choose, I will allow that to be your second discussion post for the week and give you the points. So, plus you can get some extra feedback. And if you're really torn between which one to use, that's a great way to choose, is to ask your fellow designers. So with that being said, I want to show you an easy way to do that, to post that in the discussion for this week. So I'm going to go in to my week 1 and just Move this out of the way. I'm going to open up the PDF that I made. So this was a PDF I made last week, and I'm opening it up. You'll notice I'm opening it up in Adobe Acrobat Pro. If you go to open it up, if you double click and it opens up in preview, this isn't going to work. But I want to, oh yes. Yeah, James, we know which one you're going to use. But hey, you can still, I say, you can still ask people because I understand. You're not even a dilemma. I understood where you were coming from. And I lived in Arizona for 5 years, and I know the type of clientele that probably would have been okay with that cover. And so it kind of made me chuckle when I saw it. But I also live in Massachusetts, and I know people in Massachusetts would be like, what? I don't want to know where my beef's coming from. So if you double click in the Finder on your PDF and it doesn't open up in Acrobat right away, it opens up in preview, there's a quick way that you can fix this. If you either control click on it or right click on it or even do a quick Command I, basically we want to get info. And you can scroll down and see how it says open with. If you change that from preview to Adobe Acrobat app and then click change all, it will always open up your PDF files in Acrobat, which is really where they should be opening. So again, you want this to open up in Acrobat. Then what you're going to do is you're going to go up to File, Export to Image, and you can pick JPEG. And it's going to make a JPEG of each page. Into the course, and up here where it says your name, click on Account, click on Files, and I'm in here as the test student, and then you're going to upload those two JPEGs. So I'm just gonna grab page 1 because the other page is blank. And then go back into your courses, go into the discussion for week 2, and hit reply. And if you click on the little embed image icon, you can just click on Canvas and go to your files and find it. And you can put in there, you know, which one would you choose? I am going to put share both of your covers this week in the discussion, and this can count as your second post. See instructions in the live session video. And there we go. So, you know, again, that's a great way to get some feedback from your fellow students. All right, so all assignments and assessments are due by Saturday at midnight for full credit. Please be sure that you are communicating with me if your work is going to be late, because this will save you missed points. You can ask your fellow students. Anyone who emailed me before the deadline, they did not lose their points when they submitted their work. Week 4 assignments cannot be turned in late. Your original discussion posts are due by Wednesday. And again, don't forget to respond to those 2 fellow students, because that's worth 20% of your grade. Also, if you have a late discussion, if you haven't done the week 1 discussion yet, please submit it by this Saturday, the Saturday of week 2, before it closes out. And again, if you're missing work from week 1, there is definitely still time to fix this. Don't think that the mod is lost. You can still get that work in. So your live sessions are Mondays at 11:30 a.m. Mountain Time, and the multi-sessions are Tuesdays at 11:30 a.m. Mountain Time. Those multi-sessions are just like open tutoring. You can come in, it's very informal. You can ask questions. I can take a look at your screen. We can do a demo if you need another demo. I also try to, get in touch with people during the session. So I like to hold these at the beginning of the week so you have all of the recordings that you need so you can get your work done early, and it'll give you some time to get that work done. And you don't feel like you're being rushed, if we were doing a live session on a Thursday, let's say. If you do need any outside help, the Student Success Center is open with tutoring available, and no appointment is necessary. So this week, we're going to be talking about the principles of design. In the grade book, there is a critique of last week's assignment, so apply what you learned, regarding the principles of design and my feedback to the design of your menu and your cover from last week. We're going to use style sheets this week. Style sheets, at first, it may seem like it's something complicated, but the great thing about style sheets is it's there to make your workflow simpler and to make things go faster for you. So that is the great thing about style sheets. I remember that the first time that I learned about style sheets, I was like, ugh, whatever, roll eyes. It's one more thing I have to do. But once I really got into doing the style sheets, I was like, man, why don't I use these for everything? This makes me work 10 times faster, and then that means I'm done 10 times faster. So I kind of kicked myself in the butt for not using style sheets for a couple of years, because it has really, really sped up how fast I can get things done. And again, we have a discussion, an assignment, and an assessment this week. So before we get into these slides, let's just hop on over into the course and take a look at our announcements. So let's go over these ones. So DJ Smith is our learning coach for this mod. I love DJ. She's one of my favorite learning coaches, and it's probably because she always gives me great feedback. She goes in and she will watch my live sessions for the course, and she always tells me that she likes the way I teach. So that's probably why she's one of my favorite learning coaches, right? But she's great. She's always there to help. So she has hours. The good thing is she's Mountain Time, I'm Eastern Time, so I'm up early. If you've ever texted me early, you probably get a response from me early. I have 2 small children. They sleep through the night, knock on wood, except for last night. My 2-year-old was all about throwing everything around her room at 3 in the morning for some reason. But they get me up early. So with that being said, I kind of tend to go to bed early, but she has late hours. So between the two of us, you pretty much have coverage all day long, which is pretty awesome. So she has hours Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday. And you can see her schedule right here. Let's go over some tips for a successful week 2. Here's my policy regarding resubmissions. I do allow 1 resubmission per assignment or assessment for a better grade. If it's a quiz, an auto-graded quiz, those are exempt. You're only allowed to take those once per our regulations in the course. All resubmissions for a higher grade need to be done by Tuesday of week 4. So that is July 2nd. So you still have some time to get that week 1 in again. Discussions, however, cannot be resubmitted. If you are missing work from week 1, there is still time to fix this. Please don't feel like all is lost. Try and get the missing assignments or assessments in as soon as you can, because the quicker you get the week 1 assignment in and get my feedback on your covers, the easier it's going to be for you to get your work done for week 2 and then be all caught up. So please don't let things snowball on you. Week 1 will be open through the end of week 2, through this Saturday. So please try and get that in. Again, we're going to have some readings and videos from week 2, so we can take a look at those. Sometimes they have a hyperlink up at the top where you can click on it and it brings you right down to week 2. This course doesn't, though. So there is the live session pre-recording. There's a video on how to edit text, how to format text with paragraph styles. So again, paragraph and character styles, that's what we're going to be doing this week. There is only 18 minutes worth of videos that will explain this, plus the live session, which will explain this. So you really have some great resources to go back and watch again, because I get it, it's something new. You might have to watch it a couple of times to really, really get it. There's a video on creating and syncing colors and then working on fonts from Typekit. So Typekit is technically Adobe Fonts. They decided to change the name to Adobe Fonts like a month ago, and everything redirects you directly to the website. So don't worry, you know, it's just the name and like the background picture that they changed. And then also on the CRAP principles of design, and then the elements of design. And then there's also some lynda.com videos on stacking and layering objects, wrapping text around a graphic, and then combining text and graphics. This one's optional, but if you're really getting into it and you're like, this stuff is wicked cool, which it is, watch the optional video too. It's only 8 minutes. If you need some help with your discussion posts, please visit the Writing Center. They are there to help. If you need to get back in and watch the recorded sessions, you can find them in the live session tab and in the announcements. Again, if you need some help with our learning coach or from our learning coach, you can visit the Student Success Center. And if you need some computer help, you can go to the computer support. Please, 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 please do not forget about the daily checkpoints. I can see a couple of people who are currently not passing the class because of the daily checkpoints, because they're not doing them. There is nothing I can do about that if that's what's bringing down your grade. But again, there's still time to fix this. We're only in week 2. We're only on Monday of week 2. Just make sure you do them all going forward, and I promise you it will help and fix your grade. Put a reminder in your phone. My reminder goes off every morning at 6 a.m. and it says, do your daily checkpoint. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I got to get in there and do my daily checkpoint. So seriously, make sure that you are doing those daily checkpoints each day, because they can help and hurt your grade. Also, Adobe Hope is offered with Sean Thursdays and Fridays, and there's a link to a Zoom room. So if you need some help, please go see Sean if there's anything going wrong with your Adobe. I made this little video which shows how to view the annotations and feedback in your gradebook, because I left you feedback. If you upload, here's a little tip. If you upload separately the PDF file of your submission, I can actually leave you feedback right on that PDF file, and you'll be able to see it on the screen, so you can kind of see where I've added my notes. And this video shows you where you can see that. Again, it's in the announcement, so you can watch it. And then I also had a fun announcement. You know, a lot of people are always confused as to why we use CMYK when we're sending things to print. You know, why we have to change those images from RGB to CMYK. So I have 2 quick videos here that show you why you do that. The first one's only 10 minutes, so I'm actually going to play the first one for you guys if you
Offset
haven't seen
printing
it.
is one of the most common image reproduction methods of the modern age. But what is offset printing, and how does it work? Offset printing begins with the pre-press stage. Digital files are broken down by their color separation and are laser etched onto coated aluminium plates. Each plate is then loaded onto a roller known as the plate cylinder. Each revolution of the cylinder dampens the non-image area of the plate with water in the dampening system. A vegetable oil-based ink then passed through a series of rollers and finally onto the image area of the plate. This image is then offset onto another cylinder with a rubber blanket. The addition of this process results in a clearer and sharper final image and is where offset printing gets its name. Paper is loaded into the start of the press and is separated by jets of air to ensure that only one piece travels at a time. The paper is passed between the blanket cylinder and the impression cylinder, where it receives the printed image before it's passed on to the next unit to receive the next color. After the page has traveled through each of the units,
I'm going to pause it right here. And this is your CMYK. C for cyan, magenta for M, Y is yellow, and K is black. So this is why we separate it, because what it does is it separates everything in your piece to 4 plates, where all of the cyan in the images goes on this plate. All of the magenta in the images goes on this plate. All of the yellow in the images goes on this plate, and all of the black on the images goes on this plate. If you didn't separate your images to CMYK and you still had them as RGB, you would end up at the pre-press stage with 3 extra plates: a red plate, a green plate, and a blue plate. Red, green, blue, RGB. And then sometimes when that happens, if you have a pre-press operator who's very grumpy, and I have worked with many a grumpy press operator, they go, they didn't do it correctly, and they take those 3 plates and they throw them away. And what happens is where that image is supposed to be, the plates are missing, and it ends up being blank. And it goes through, and it may end up going to your client with a blank image where the photo is supposed to be, because you had a grumpy press operator who said, graphic designer didn't do it correctly, and I'm not fixing it. I have seen that so many times, I can't even begin to tell you. So with that being said,
it's piled at the end of the press with a thin layer of powder separating each page so that the printed image can dry without marking the pages above and below. Offset printing is best suited for larger volume prints, as most of the cost is in the initial setup, and the price per print will fall as the quantity goes up. For more information, visit us at expresscards.com.au. We also have a range of videos to help you understand the various aspects.
So yeah, so a lot of people, have a hard time kind of wrapping their brains around why it is that we do that. And I remember when I first started, I was like, okay. And it wasn't until I saw a girl that I worked with, it was kind of funny because she was an ad creator like me at the newspaper, and her father actually worked in pre-press, which was how she got the job. And she set up a full page that was running in the paper, and it was the first time that she did her own full page, and she didn't realize that she needed to change all of the artwork to CMYK. So she was creating all of these colors, and all the colors were being created in not even in RGB. She accidentally created them as spot colors, and then she sent the job over to pre-press, which went to her father, who was working that day, and something like 47 plates came out. And he came like marching over to the art department. He was like, who did this? Because he was a grumpy pressman. He was one of our grumpy pressmen. And she was like, Dad, it was me. Why? And he said, you didn't change the artwork to CMYK. Do you know how many plates they're still coming out? And this is number 47. So we were all cracking up laughing. And I was like, oh, yeah. So that's why we have to always make sure that we change it to CMYK. 4 plates versus 47 plates. So it is kind of funny. But if you ever if you ever get a chance to go and see, you know, stuff being printed at a press, it really is cool. You know, I've worked at a couple of places that have had a press, so I've been able to see the presses in action. And the one at the newspaper was awesome because it's like ginormous. And then I worked at another place that did direct mail, and they had the presses in the back room in the warehouse. So I used to have to go back there all the time. And again, that was a really cool thing to see too, to watch them like slab the ink on and everything. But it's really awesome if you ever get a chance to go see that. All right, let's get back into our slides. So we're talking about contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity today. And these are our CRAP principles. So I want to pull up the cover that I created last week. I think I might still have it up. And I kind of got into this a little bit last week. But, you know, I want to use this as an example as we're going over those principles, the contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. And I want to point them out in my cover as an example to you. So when we talk about contrast, there can be a couple of different things that can create contrast in our piece, because contrast really means change. So there can be, within the text, there can be contrast. There can be changes in size, changes in color. There can be change in direction, a change in the typeface, a change in the weight of the font. So that means, you know, using the regular versus the bold version of the font. And those changes bring emphasis, and they also create focal points in our piece. So here are a couple of examples on this slide of contrast. So again, size, position, color, texture, shape, orientation. But I wanted to point out the contrast in this cover. So the black and white bar with the address running on it, that creates contrast. Making the phone number a bit larger, that's, you know, a change in the size, that creates contrast. Even using the yellow and the red together, that creates contrast. You know, there's contrast in the logo sitting over this part of the window. There's actually not a lot of contrast that's happening over here. So the bulk of the logo, at least, you know, there's a focal point in the center, so you'll be able to read it. There's even a lot of contrast in this image. You know, the plate is blue with the coffee sitting on top of it. And those are, you know, the coffee kind of has an orangey hue to it, and orange and blue are contrasting colors. So, you know, there's a bit of contrast in this piece. So here's some good and bad choices. Now you may say to yourself, well, red and green, that has a ton of contrast. So why is that a bad choice other than it being, you know, Christmas colors? And I'm going to say this to you, that it's hard to read because your eyes don't know where to focus. And inevitably, whenever I tell someone this, they say, well, I can read it, no problem. You know, I don't have trouble seeing it. And that may be true. It may be that you don't have trouble seeing it. But did you know that red-green color blindness is the most prevalent color blindness in all of the world? Most people who are colorblind are red-green colorblind. And when you are red-green colorblind, you have trouble differentiating between those two colors because they show up as shades of gray. Two different shades of gray. So all someone with red-green colorblind sees here is one gray square. They can't really differentiate because this gray might be a little bit lighter than this gray. It tends to look more like this, but in tones of gray. My dad was actually red-green colorblind, and he had to learn when he was driving, he had to learn where the lights were, which one was to stop and which one was to go, because he saw them both as shades of gray. And for a while, some lights were rotated, so they were, you know, kind of laying there. And he said those ones were the worst because they're, you know, they could be laying either way, and he was never quite sure which was red and which was green. You know, he had to almost wait to see if somebody else was going or if somebody honked at him to go. So that's one of those things that I remembered as a kid, was him telling me that. And I always, you know, you want to make sure that your design is inclusive to everyone and that everyone can read it. And that's one of those things where someone might not be able to read it. Then we have repetition. So repetition can be one of those design principles that is kind of confusing to explain in words. It's a lot easier to show. So repetition represents consistency in the design. So that might mean that you repeat elements in the design, you repeat fonts in the design, font sizes, font colors, the leading, and that you use them consistently, so therefore it creates visual unity and harmony within the design. So I have a couple of examples here. This is the first one. So you can see that there's repetition in both the typefaces. Even though you can't see what the typefaces are without squinting, you can see that there's repetition. You can see that there's repetition by using this line work in the design. You can see that there's repetition in the columns between the pages. There's repetition in the colors between the pages. So that's repetition. So going back to my cover, my repetition was to, you know, there's repetition in color here. This gold to this gold to the golden color of the coffee to the golden color of the cake is repetition. There is repetition in the fonts. I've used the same font throughout. There's even repetition in the red, starting here and right here. It just so happened that it's that way, but it works out. So that's repetition. The repetition leads your eye through the design. Then we have alignment. So we can align our text, but we can also align our elements on the page. And elements on the page are pretty much anything that's on the page, all of the different pieces. So alignment's really important because it allows you to arrange elements in a way that matches how people are going to naturally scan the page. So therefore, you can balance your images to make sure that they're visually appealing. And then you can also create a visual connection between the related elements on the page. You have the ability as a graphic designer to lead the viewer's eye around the page and make them see what you want them to see when you want them to see it. And it's a pretty cool thing. So you can align things to, you know, an edge. You can align things to the center. You can have something be purposely not aligned. And then this one takes a little practice, the visual alignment. So in this case, you know, it's technically aligned because this is the left edge of the V and then this is the left edge of the text. But by us just subtly, you know, bringing that swoop roundness of the V over the line, it's a little bit more visually aligned. And we don't know why. We can't explain in words why, but it just feels nicer to look at it that way. So you can see I've got, you know, things aligned. There's, you know, an implied alignment on the left over here. There's an implied alignment over here. Or you may remember I wanted to line the hours up to the edge of the eye here. So it's easy to just drop a ruler and line things up nice and neatly. Then we have proximity. Again, another one that's kind of hard to put into words, it's easier to explain by showing a visual. So what this means is things that belong together should be together on the page. They should be viewed as a group. So what does that mean? That might mean all of the pieces of the address, all of the, the contact information as a whole, the address and the phone number, all of the pieces of the, hours, what should go with the logo. It should be put together. So you guys have probably seen business cards that somebody hands you and they want to use all of the page, right? So it's got their name and it's got something in all four corners. Okay, but your eye doesn't really know where to look for the information it's looking for. So even though this isn't using all of the page, the information is so much easier to scan. We have the name of the company, where they're located, and then how to contact them. Our eyes aren't hopping all over the page looking for information. So again, when it comes to proximity, I have the name of the company, Fine Steaks and Seafood, goes with the name of the company. I have all of the hours together, and then I have all of the contact information together. So I'm keeping things that belong together on the page. So let's look at a couple of examples of design on this piece and find them. So we have, now first off, I want to point out that this was definitely created using a style sheet. So styles were set and were applied to the text, which is why certain things are the same size, certain things are the same font, certain things are the same color throughout the menu. And what that does is that as a whole, this is our repetition. This is why we're able to figure out like, oh, all right, the chicken sandwich comes with a chicken breast, provolone, grilled onions, chicken au jus on a soft roll. So we know if we go over to entrees and go to the vegetarian meatloaf, we know that that's going to come with lentils, oats, and herb meatloaf served with smashed potatoes, roasted vegetables, and a mushroom gravy. We know that because, there's a repetition in how this is set up the same. And this is probably going to make you hungry because it's going to make me hungry because I ate 3 hours ago, but that doesn't mean anything, right? So our contrast is not only the black on white and the red on white, but the difference in the text size. Again, that repetition, using the same font size throughout and for the pricing, using the same font size throughout for the headlines of the entrees, using the same font size for the explanation for each entree. The alignment, we have a left alignment here, and then for each of the item descriptions, we have it very slightly tabbed in and aligned. All of the prices are aligned. They're actually aligned to the dot, and I'm going to show you how to do that today. Then proximity, things that belong together are together. It wouldn't make any sense to put hot sandwiches here and then put the hot sandwiches down here, each of the items down here. Things that belong together are grouped together. So looking just within this group, we have hot sandwiches, what it's served with, next to the words hot sandwiches. Each sandwich itself, we have the name, the description, and the price together. So you can see. So those are the CRAP principles of design. So again, we're going to be using style sheets this week, and those style sheets are predetermined formats for text and objects. It's the fastest and most efficient way to manage your formatting, and I could really just read over all of these slides, and I already kind of showed you it, but it would be so much easier to get in and show you how to create those style sheets. Before I do that, let's take a look at our assessment and our discussion for this week. So we have another quiz. This week you want to apply InDesign's text frame properties to create and link columns. That will be in your quiz. It will also be in your assignment. You want to prepare your document for print by using the package tool. Again, in the quiz, in the assignment. You want to create and apply paragraph and character style sheets to manage type consistency. In the assignment, in the quiz, identify and apply the 4 basic principles of design: contrast, repetition, alignment, and proximity. And then define and apply the 5 basic elements of design, which are shape, line, color, texture, and value. So again, each of these are in, what we're going to do this week, and they will be in the quiz. A reminder, those quizzes are not timed. Please take your time. If you're having any problems, you don't know the answer off the top of your head, open up a new tab. I don't care if you Google the answer to try to find it. I want you to do well on the quiz. So that is okay to look up, it's open book, look up the answers. Take your time and look them up. All right, let's go over into the course and let's take a look at our discussion for week 2.